to Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance, of course, is brought to you by BetDSI.eu. You can go there and use the promo code TGT to get a 100% cash bonus on your first deposit. That 100% cash bonus is 50% sports bet, 50% casino. You can also go to the gruelingtruth.com banner at the top of the page. Click that. We are also brought to you by Seat Giant. Go to Seat Giant, use the promo code TGT also for a 5% discount on any ticket you buy. If you're in Canada and you want to go to the Raptors game tonight, use the TGT promo code because those tickets are probably like 10 grand, so 5% is decent money back. I am your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, 1981 national champion, 1979 NIT champion, like anybody cares, and a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, Steve Alford. How you doing, Steve?
Steve Alford?
That's cool. Damn. Steve Risley. I wish it was Steve Alford because then we'd have bigger sponsors.
We would have bigger sponsors, wouldn't we?
I can't believe I said
not?
Steve Alford.
No.
I wasn't even thinking about Steve Alford.
You should think about Steve Alford.
I don't know.
You want me to get him on the show?
He's already been on the show, Steve.
He has?
Yeah, he was on the show like 2 months ago, Steve.
He was?
During the Final Four, remember? We had him and Poncho.
Oh, yeah.
Ray.
There you go. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, exactly.
All right. We have a special guest today. He's our beat reporter for the NHL. He's going to be doing some other things during the NFL season and college football season also. Help me welcome to the show, Slammin' Sam McGinnis.
How you doing, Mike?
All right, Sam. I just figured I'd come up with a nickname right off the top of the bat. So you're Slammin' Sammy now.
All right.
Well, it's because you play safety in the corner and you slam those wide receivers, right, Sam?
I'm sorry, what?
I said it's because you play DB and you slam those wide receivers.
That is a lot of fun to do, especially when they don't see it coming. I know that's like really mean, but it's fun.
I don't know. I don't remember you hitting too many people, Sam, but I do remember Sam had like 3 picks in one game, didn't you, Sam?
2. I wish it was 3. The other one I caught was like 5 feet out of bounds, so that doesn't really count.
We're going to count it, though, because nobody knows that, because nobody knows what happened in the game, so you should have said it wasn't 3, Mike. It was 4. That's how Steve does it, right, Steve?
Yep.
There you go.
Math.
All right, let's start off with a little
math.
We're going to touch on a little sports news. We had basically 3 tragedies over the weekend in the sports world. David Ortiz was shot in a bar in the Dominican Republic. Bystanders at the shooting of the former Boston Red Sox star beat up one of the 2 suspects before handing him over to police. Ortiz is recovering from surgery after he was shot Sunday night at a club in his native Santo Domingo, according to police. The suspect, Eddie Vladimir Feliz Garcia, and another man, he's probably pissed because he gets so many names, and another man approached the dialed discotheque. They still got discotheques in the Dominican Republic, Steve. You need to move there. You were cool back when it was discotheque time.
Staying alive.
That's really a bad pun in that situation. On a motorcycle before it.
That's a very bad pun.
It looks like it was a drive-by. They were on a motorcycle, opened fire, hitting Ortiz and his friend. Police said in a statement they tried to drive away, but the motorcycle fell to the pavement. And unfortunately, that's not the only news we have there, as we also have former Indianapolis Colts player Eric Patterson was shot to death Saturday in Florida. According to media reports, the Tampa Bay Times reported that Patterson was killed about 5 a.m. in a home in Tampa. A person with knowledge of the incident, but who was unable to speak on the record, confirmed to USA Today that Patterson was the victim. According to the Tampa police report, a roommate woke about 5 a.m. to the sounds of a commotion in the house. The roommate went into a living room and saw an unknown suspect fleeing and the shooting victim on his back. The victim, Patterson, died at an area hospital. But not the way to start off a Monday. But do you remember Eric Patterson? He was a Colt.
No, I don't remember Eric Patterson. Unfortunately, I don't.
It's not your fault because I don't remember him either.
His life.
But
yeah, I really truly don't want to belittle his life. I mean, it's a tragic story. So I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and it's hard really to speak on it because we don't know the complete details.
Yeah, we don't know
why the person
details,
was in his house and all of that. So,
right. But it goes back to the old saying, Mike. Nothing good happens after 11 o'clock.
Yeah, but he was in his own house.
I know, but still, nothing good happens after 11 o'clock.
It's true, Sammy.
Even in your own house.
When you go to college, Sam, remember that. Nothing good happens after 11 o'clock. So when it
happens
gets
after
to be
11 o'clock,
go back to your dorm and stay there.
Oh. Ortiz,
I'm actually hoping to stay at a friend's house, but,
Oh, okay. Well,
so I won't be at a dorm.
Ortiz, I don't get Ortiz. I mean, I watched the video. We've all seen the video all morning long. Big Papi's a good guy. I mean, he's from what I know. I mean, I don't know him personally. We've never had Christmas dinner together, but it seems to me he cared about his town. He cared about the game, and I don't get it. If it was random, it's random. If it was intentional, where does life go? I mean, what did it happen?
Yeah, and we had another tragedy Friday night as former two-weight world champion Zab Judah, who was making progress, was taken to a hospital following Saturday night. Saturday night's loss to fellow American Cletus Selden. Judah was fighting for the first time in 17 months when he was stopped in the 11th round of what was a brutal contest. He appeared fine but went to the hospital early on Sunday morning and had a bleed on his brain. Everything I've seen, I've talked to some people that know the family because they're not really reporting anything, but he is communicating with his family and does seem to be doing much better right now. But the question is this: he's 41. He hadn't fought in a year and a half. Why is he even fighting? Why do they let him fight? And I know.
Okay,
Steve, go ahead.
Here's my question to you, and you're a boxing aficionado. This is your game. This is what you believe in, and you're knowledgeable and versed. Why do they not wear headgear?
You can't wear headgear because there's actually more accidents like this that happen in amateur boxing than there is professional. And
then explain that to people because
if you watch like back in the day and you see a guy like Mike Tyson or Evander Holyfield, they didn't even spar with headgear because a lot of trainers believe that the headgear gives you a sense of security, that you can get hit and be all right, and you end up taking more punches.
Okay.
And it's true. If you wear headgear, you're not as worried about it. I mean, I've been in a ring from time to time. I mean, not a professional fight or anything, but if you got headgear on, you feel a sense of safety. It's just like if you take football helmets off of football players, Sam, you're not going to have as violent a contacts because guys are not going to use their head.
Yeah, that's actually they abuse their helmets because they have them.
Yeah.
They didn't do that as much in the older years when their headgear wasn't quite as extensive, and I think it's kind of sad that we've abused it.
Well, how about this? There's a film.
Hang on here. You're both off track here. This is not headgear. The helmet is there to protect you.
So it's the headgear.
It is there. The helmet is there. Yeah. And Mike, I'm asking questions here. I'm saying headgear in boxing makes sense to me. If we get players who get like Ali boxers who get punch drunk and die of constant blows to the head, and this headgear can protect them, and they feel more secure wearing it, shouldn't we make them more secure? I'm just asking the question.
It's not a secure sport.
No.
It's not supposed to be a secure sport. I mean, boxing is the oldest sport in the world. People have been boxing. People have been fighting. It started off barehanded. Actually, they used to sit them on a log, tie them to the log, tie one of their hands together, and they'd stand there and beat each other until one of them was dead. So we have evolved.
So, okay. This is not funny. I mean, it's not funny.
Yeah, it's funny because
humorous.
people that have no clue what they're talking about.
Yeah, I get your point. I get your point.
I mean, because this is the thing. It's dangerous.
Does the Olympics use headgear?
They started using the headgear in 1984, but before that, no.
So they use headgear
no
now.
form of boxing used it. Yeah, and there's been a lot more accidents. There's been a lot more fighters that have been hurt.
I think when it comes down to it, headgear or not, a player has to realize the possible consequences of playing boxing regardless.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing about boxing.
That's any sport. That's any sport.
You don't, but there's a difference here. You don't play boxing.
Touche. Well said.
I mean,
you don't play
just
boxing.
don't. And the thing is this. With boxers,
you box. You fight.
Boxers, when you go in a boxing ring, with or without headgear, whether it's sparring or in a real fight, you know there's the possibility you could die or you could get seriously injured. And the thing is this, you accept those consequences and you go in. And, if you look at the NFL, players back in the day, it's not like there's been a bunch of football players that dropped dead. There's been one NFL player, and there's been very few that have been killed. We've had guys that were paralyzed, but very few that have died playing football. Usually if they die playing football, it has something to do with concussion, and it's usually a high school kid or it's a college kid who's dehydrated and he's got a coach that is overworking them without giving them enough water. So boxing is inherently the most dangerous sport there is. Anybody that is a boxer knows that. And Zab Jr. is 41.
Okay. So if it's the most dangerous sport, wouldn't you want to make it the most safest sport?
No.
Because it is the most dangerous sport. You're blowing people in the head. You're hitting people in the head. Would you not want that to? You want not every piece of protection you can get on these kids to box. No,
if you're an amateur, you can protect them all you want. But as a professional, this is the thing. If you put headgear on Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin, I'm not going to pay to watch it. I want to watch two men get in a fight. That's what boxing is.
That's your statement?
Yeah, that's my statement. I would never pay.
You're not going to pay to watch it.
I will not pay to watch two men with headgear.
You're not going to pay somebody. You're not going to pay to appoint somebody by landing a blow here, landing a blow there.
No, I'm not. Nobody pays to see that.
With different colored paint and saying blow, blow, blow. He got 3 blows to the left jaw.
All right,
let's
now
give him
this is the
points.
thing, Steve. Olympic boxing, 1976, 80, 84, were the biggest sport in the Olympics. You had guys like Sugar Ray Leonard, Evander Holyfield. When they put the headgear on them in 84, after 84, boxing was almost removed from the Olympics because there's no interest. Because what they did is, instead of scoring it, I mean, they changed to where if I touch you, that's worth a point. If you touch me, that's a point. That's what you're talking about. And the thing is this, nobody watches it now. Nobody watches Olympic boxing because nobody cares, because it's just two guys trying to see who can touch each other the most. And when I watch a fight, I want to see a fight.
Can I just interject here a second? And devil's advocate here, there's no more Muhammad Ali's in boxing. Those guys don't exist anymore.
There was never a Muhammad Ali before Muhammad Ali.
Right, exactly.
Okay, there's only one Muhammad Ali. You understand that, right?
Yes, there was Max Baer, there was Sugar Ray Robinson. There were great boxers.
And there has been since Muhammad Ali.
Nobody since Muhammad Ali.
Yes,
George
there has.
Foreman,
So you're telling me George Foreman, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Oscar De La Hoya, Roy Jones Jr., and Andre Ward, guys today, Vasil Lomachenko, Canelo Alvarez, Triple G. You can't tell me there's nobody like that. There's still great fighters. There's not as many great fighters because
there's nobody that brings you. Who is the greatest athlete in the world?
Who is the greatest athlete in the world right now?
It's Muhammad Ali. Who's the most famous, recognized name?
He's the most recognized, but he's not even the greatest boxer of all time. He was the greatest heavyweight of all time, which is debatable.
But he's Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And
what's your point, Steve?
Yeah.
And he fought without headgear. If he'd have fought with headgear, he wouldn't have been famous because nobody would have cared.
And he may still be alive.
No, he wouldn't. He had Parkinson's. Parkinson's was something that he was going to get no matter what. He quickened the onset of it because of the blows to the head, but he's a grown man. And I can tell you this, the last interview I saw with him, which was 5 or 6 years before he died, they asked him if he had to do it all again, if he would, and he said yes. because
sure he would.
said that if
yes,
he did,
yes,
no, because that's easy to say. Sure,
Ali.
it would, but he is Muhammad Ali,
yeah.
and without that,
it's
he's
Muhammad
just
Ali.
some kid from Louisville just working at Walmart.
Wow.
From my limited knowledge, you do what you love because you love it, regardless of the consequences.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, football is
I agree.
extremely dangerous. You know, boxing is extremely dangerous. Horse racing
shouldn't we make extremely dangerous safe?
No.
Okay. And
you can't make it safe.
Here's my deal. No, you can't.
No, you
because
can't.
Now we have. We're going to run today at 2:00 in the afternoon. I know you don't give a damn. We're going to run the Michigan 400. All right, in Brooklyn, Michigan.
What does that mean? It's not even a sport.
Yeah. Well, it is a sport.
No, it's two guys. It's a guy that's 5'6" and weighs 160 pounds.
They have safer barriers up. They put helmets on the wall.
Okay, Steve, you don't think that if they could have a safer helmet, they wouldn't? You cannot make it safer when you're getting hit in the head. You can make it safer in a car, you know, by putting all these little cuddle things in with them and everything. But I could also tell you this. They've made the sport safer, and the sport's not nearly as popular as it was.
I think maybe that's actually part of the problem is the fan base surrounding it, because you can't just, like, it's still dangerous, but you can't just ask them to, like, kill each other like they used to. So I feel like there's maybe an in-between somewhere here that we're not seeing.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this. If you hit a wall at 100 or 200 miles an hour, there's a chance you're not going to get out no matter what you got on. And I can tell you this, football-wise, Steve, there is nothing you can do with the helmet at this point that would make it safer. And there is nothing you can do with headgear to make it safer, because the problem is this, Steve. When a boxer gets hit, the thing that will kill him, or the thing that gives him the brain bleed, is getting hit and his head snapping back and that brain smacking around in his head. That does not get changed with headgear, because if I hit you with a hook right in the mouth and your head snaps back, it is what it is. Your brain's moving. There's nothing you can do with boxing to make it safer. The only thing you can do with boxing, though, is this. You can actually take care of the fighters after they're done fighting. You know, have a pension for them, have medical care for them, because Zab Judah retired 2 years ago. Zab Judah probably doesn't come back if he's got a pension and he's got medical care. Because Zab Judah was fine. He was 100% okay. I had talked to him about a year ago. He doesn't slur his speech, no issues. But lack of funds, lack of money, forced him to come back to get paid one final time. And that could be, I mean, what changes the quality of his life from here on out, where if you had a commission for the sport, like Major League Baseball does, or the NBA, or the NHL, then maybe he's got a big enough pension where he doesn't come back. And we see boxers come back when they're 45, 48, 50 years old just to get one more payday because they need money.
All right. Okay. No, I just Googled, I'm on my computer, I Googled top 10 pay-per-view events. 8 of the top 10 are boxing events. So who's making the money, and where is the infrastructure there?
There is no infrastructure. That is the problem. That's what I'm talking about.
50%. We had this conversation last week, Mike, about 50% of the money of the NFLPA needs to go to the players.
Yeah.
Okay? Where is 50% of the money going to in the boxing world?
It only
Where's
goes
it going
to you
obviously
if you're
not
a
the boxers.
Floyd. If you're a Floyd Mayweather Jr. or a big star, an Oscar De La Hoya, you get it. But if you're not, you get screwed. And the thing is this: if you're a boxer and you're fighting your pro debut and you didn't win an Olympic gold medal, you're making $400 for 4 rounds. That's it. Most of these boxers don't make anything, and that is the problem with boxing.
Define $400 for 4 rounds. I mean, they're only going to fight 4
now,
rounds.
If you knock a dude out or get knocked out in 20 seconds, you still get $400. If you go to 4-round distance, you get $400. That's just the way it is.
So is boxing legitimate? Is boxing legitimate?
What do you mean by legitimate? It's a legitimate sport.
Wait
a second. See, this is the thing.
Like
if you're going to ask me a question, shut up so I can answer it. My point is this. It is a legitimate sport run by illegitimate people. It is exactly like horse racing in the NFL. Because the thing that all these have together is boxers that are champions are well taken care of. Horses that are running in races are well taken care of. Football players that are still playing are well taken care of. But once they are no longer needed by the ownership, nobody cares about them anymore. That is the inherent problem. And the problem is this. The three most dangerous sports are boxing, football, and horse racing. That's where you get the most deaths. That's where you get the most life-altering injuries. And for some reason, people don't care. So basically, you're used up, you're thrown away. When you're done, you're done. And the other thing about it is, boxing and football, those are usually 90% of the guys are coming from the poorest aspects of society. 100% in boxing usually. They're poor. They have no recourse. So as a boxer, I was told this story once by Tim Witherspoon, who was a heavyweight champion, where Muhammad Ali came back to fight Larry Holmes. And Don King owed him $500,000. Don King walked into the Deer Lake training facility, and he has a check for $500,000, and he has $50,000 in cash, and he asked Ali which one he wants. And Ali took the cash. The reason Ali took the cash, the way Witherspoon explained it, to King explained it to him, is he'd always done it that way. Because when you grow up poor, check's just a piece of paper that can bounce. The $50,000 in cash I can actually touch, hold, and see, and it's real to me. So, invariably, the guy who grew up poor with nothing to his name would take the $50,000 cash, and King would save $450,000. If you're a boxer, 10% goes to the 10% goes to the promoter.
What are wealthy sports? What are wealthy sports? Golf?
Golf.
Hockey for sure.
Baseball, hockey. Because let's face it, baseball-wise, there's very few guys that aren't playing that didn't play select baseball. And the same thing with basketball. And you've got to have money for your kid to play select baseball. I mean, trust me, I pissed away a lot of money on Austin in select baseball. And he ended up tearing his wrist up. But from the ages of 9 to 16, it was thousands of dollars. You know, you can't do that. You know, with boxing, I mean, you just need a pair of gloves. You go down to the gym, there you go. And the problem is you got a bunch of vultures down there, you know, basically rich guys that are just looking for the next great thing. They take him. And an example is this. If you make $500,000 in a title fight, 10% of that goes to your manager. Another 20% goes to the promoter. Another 10, 20% promoter, to the matchmaker. Yeah. So right there, you've lost.
The ring man. Yeah.
$500,000 goes to $250,000.
Angelo Dundee. Yeah, I get all the names. I get all the names.
After taxes, if you made $500,000 in a fight, you're really walking away with $120,000.
With $30,000, $40,000.
With $120,000 at best. Now, there are guys like Angelo Dundee that you talked about that actually took care of their fighters. And he would only take a larger cut if it was a huge purse and he knew that the guy he was training, like Sugar Ray Leonard, was well taken care of and he didn't have to worry about anything. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot. And talking about managers and trainers, most managers and trainers, when they have fighters in 4-round fights making $400 or 6-round fights making $600, they don't take anything. So, in the end, the 10% for the manager, if he's not taking anything until the kid's actually getting paid, I can kind of see that. The problem comes when you're paying 20% to a promoter, because an NFL player is paying 3%, 5% to their agent, who is actually doing a lot more work than that promoter.
Okay. I'm listening.
Go ahead. So the sport is legitimate. The people that run the sport are not legitimate. And that's the sad thing about it. And it's one of the reasons that you don't have as many great fighters as you once did. Because now, I mean, everybody's trying to protect their investment, so you don't want him to lose, so you don't put him in with anybody. You know, we had the Wilder Joshua, which should have happened 2 years ago. The great thing about that is Joshua lost, so that promoter is going to lose his ass. because he tried to wait and make the fight bigger even. Where back in the day, fighters would demand to get paid. They would demand to fight. You know, Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns in 1981 demanded to fight each other. They didn't give the promoters a choice. You know, Hagler and Hearns demanded to fight each other. Guys don't do that anymore. So, and when you look at the horse racing, I mean, you know, you got Pete involved with and everything.
Well, let's move on to horse racing, because we've got another death at Santa Anita.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I mean, I watched the HBO special with Brian Gumbel. And
yeah, but see, the thing that I took away, what did you take away? The thing I took away from the HBO Real Sports special was not that the horses are
not
treated,
horse racing. Yeah,
they're not treated poorly
about
now.
the racing, yeah.
But it's about the people that own the horses. Because once they're done with the horse, they don't want to deal with the horse anymore.
Yeah, they're commodities.
Yeah, so the problem's not horse racing. The problem is when the horses are done, because they've bred so many thoroughbreds to fill up so many racetracks that when they retire, there's not enough places to put them or not enough people that want them.
And I think I read. I'm not sure I got the year right. Was it Ferdinand won in '86?
Yeah, and by 1988, he was somebody.
He was dead. He was dog food. Yeah, he was dog food.
I think what it was like a Japanese company bought him.
Consortium bought him, to study him. They bought him to study him, and then he just became dog food.
Yeah.
And this is the Kentucky Derby winner. But you're right. You're exactly right. They're commodities. So our boxers, commodities.
Yeah, that's the problem. Football players are commodities too. Now, football's kind of changing, but they're changing just because people are starting to realize it and bitch about it. But anybody that played before 1993 is still a commodity. And really, guys from 93 up are still partially a commodity because they're not taken care of the way they should be. I mean, let's face it. The NFL lied about the impact concussions had for so long, and people believed them because people want to believe the people in charge. It's just like we have an extremely corrupt government, but people don't want to believe it's corrupt, so they just go on and they vote for a Republican or a Democrat and don't even realize that they're being screwed by both.
You don't like Donald Trump?
I don't like anybody that's a Republican or a Democrat. They don't have my best interest at heart. They have their own best interest at heart. I like Donald Trump better than Hillary Clinton.
Become a power grab.
Yeah, I like Donald Trump better than Hillary Clinton, but you know,
term limits.
I like cockroaches better than Hillary Clinton.
Nobody in the world should be able to be a career politician.
But remember this:
you shouldn't be able
the only way you could change that is if the people that are already elected vote for it. So that's never going to change.
No, you have to go to the poll and vote those people out. We had an election in California last week.
Yeah,
I didn't go vote.
But the problem is this. Every time you vote somebody new in, they're worse than the person before because it's already corrupt.
Most likely,
the only way to stop it is to stop lobbying from all special interest groups, even the ones you agree with.
Agreed.
So none of that's going to change because there's too much money there.
That's the first Mike agreed on something.
Huh?
We agree on a lot of things.
Stephen Mike agreed on something.
We agree. We just agree quietly, and then when we don't agree, we do it more violently so people just remember the arguments.
Off air.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and let's go to what happened last
night.
What
a great match last night.
It was terrible last night. It's a game. It's not a match. It's not a match, Steve.
Okay, you're right.
It was great until the third period.
It was great until the Blues lost. It was great until about 9 minutes in because the thing was, the way they came out, Sam, it looked like they were going to beat that ass a little bit. The Blues outshot the Bruins 5-1 early on. They got the first power play, and then the game swung. The Blues couldn't capitalize, and then because of Ryan O'Reilly sending a puck over the glass, it ends up with a 5-on-3 for the Bruins. Brad Marchand scores, and the Bruins, who are 25-1 when Marchand scores in the postseason, just ran away with it. And the thing that stood out to me is that penalty, I think, was the turning point, Sam. And then the other thing was Marchand Pasternak. Pasternak got his first goal on a 5-on-5 in the entire series. And that first line played unreal, and then Tuukka Rask played great in goal.
Yeah, my thing was, although they got that first goal and that was a significant point, I feel like the Blues still had a chance in the third period, but I think something that has killed them in many games prior, even though they're here, is disorganization. You'll notice they broke down in many places during that third period, which is why it got so out of hand, and then the last goal was just kind of a fluke. So,
well, let me ask you this, because the one thing I've noticed, and I've brought this up before on the shows, is the Blues play much better on the road than at home. And it seems like almost all those breakdowns happen at home. Now, here's my theory on it. Now, I'm not like a big hockey guy, but the way I look at this is the way the Blues play is they play defensive. They want to grind it out. And I think to a point where if you got a team like that, even if it's a home team in basketball or football, that the fact that they want to grind it out, they want to play at a slow pace, when you put them in front of their home crowd and that crowd gets jacked up, sometimes maybe you get a little adrenaline and it takes you out of what you really want to do.
Well, yeah, here's the thing is if you look at every series the Blues have been in, it does have a theme like you're talking about. They're usually longer series, but they're in control of them, which is why I still have them winning Game 7. And so you're probably right. They do get jazzed up. I would not be surprised about that. If you listen to the Blues crowd last night, even when it was like 10 seconds left, they were loud. They were really loud. So I'm not surprised that could be a reason for their disorganization, but I'm not too concerned about it because at the end of the day, the Blues are in control of the series still, I think. So I think it's going to be a great Game 7 that'll end with the Blues winning by a goal or two.
All right, and I think a player that gets overlooked a little bit, right winger Carson Kuhlman. I mean, he hadn't played since April 30th, but he immediately injected energy on the line he was on. He scored a goal to boot. He became the 21st Bruins player to score this postseason, which is a record. But I think Carson Kuhlman is a guy that really brought energy to this game when they really needed it.
Yeah, he was definitely, like, when someone gets their first goal, it's really special. When someone gets their first goal in the Stanley Cup finals, that is really special. That can really light a team up.
Yeah, and then I think the dud of the night has to be the Blues power play again. I mean, it has looked to be improved at times, but it got some great looks at Rask last night, but they had 4 power play opportunities. They generated 12 shots, which is not terrible, but they didn't score on any of them, and that kind of killed the momentum and ultimately doomed them because I know they had a couple power plays where I think they were down 2-1. Where you're thinking, man, if they could just make a play here. And then I think the backbreaker was the shot they got that hits off Rask, rolls down his back, gets caught in his pads, and then kicks the opposite way from the goal.
Yeah, actually, if you look at that, Rask wasn't the one that saved that. His defenseman right behind him whacked it back down his back instead of going in there.
Well, actually, his pads saved it on his back.
Killer. Let's see. But if it weren't for the defenseman whapping it into his back, there would have gone in net too. So
yeah, because I remember
being that close
the thing
and then having it taken away from you is just crazy.
Yeah, and the thing to me though that stood out was Rask was already playing great, and I was talking to our friend from Canada, Lucas, because we talked through most of the second and third periods about the game, and the thing that stood out to me was once he got that save like that. If I'm on the other team, I'm thinking, damn, what do I got to do to score?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when goalies have really good games, just like you mentioned at the beginning of these playoffs, if you have a really hot goalie, it can really discourage the other team.
Yeah, and it's like if Steph Curry comes out tonight and goes unconscious and hits 15 threes, they're going to win. And, I mean, that can happen.
Yeah, it just all depends on – this is why goaltending is easily the most important position in hockey. You can win or lose a game regardless of how good your team is if your goaltender is hot.
Yeah, I've seen teams get outshot 40-18 and win just because their goalie stopped everything. It's similar to a baseball team. You know, the Reds may not be as good as the Yankees, but on the day they play, if Luis Castillo, the Reds' main pitcher, is pitching and he's on and he doesn't give up anything, that day the Reds are the better team.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the only day.
Virtually the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, baseball and hockey, I think that's why baseball and hockey is where you see the most upsets, especially in early rounds. I think it had a lot to do with why the Blue Jackets made it as far
Some
as
of them,
they
yes.
did.
For some of them, yes. But then again, you could argue that Vasilevsky was much better. It's just he broke down. Still a choke job in my mind.
Well, there's a difference between a choke and an upset, Sam. But we're not going to rehash that because we talked for 30 minutes about horse racing, boxing, and I don't know what else. The other thing that I take away from this, Sam, is this. We had the Game 5 with the horrible call that probably cost the Bruins Game 5. But there's so many bad calls in a hockey game, it's hard to just pin it on just one.
Yeah, and I think my friend Will actually mentioned this to me as we were watching Game 6. He thinks part of the reason the Bruins won is because they were jazzed up because of that call, actually. Yeah. And I could see that because when you get frustrated about a really bad call, I've been in games, heck, you were there. Take the Osceola game. We got trashed so many times during that game that actually jazzed the team up at several points, and I think that's one of the factors that helped us win.
I think it was my 15-yard personal foul that spurred it on, too.
Yeah.
That's the first time I ever had a referee throw a flag at me from like 30 yards away.
Yeah. I just, those refs, I
luckily
could not.
for us, he was worse than Osceola's quarterback, and he was better than Osceola's quarterback. He only missed me by a couple yards. But all right, so you like the Blues in Game 7?
Yep, that was my prediction on the article. Same as now. I figured it'd be this way. I'm just hoping the end result is the same.
All right, Steve, what was your takeaway from the game, and who do you got in Game 7?
I thought Boston played to win the game. St. Louis played not to lose the game. And they're going back to Boston. I wouldn't want to go back to the Garden or whatever they call it now, whatever the name of the place is. It's still the Garden to me.
It's not, though, because you know what used to happen at the Boston Garden?
I know.
No,
hold
on. I got stories. I got a story. I'm not ripping
Garden.
on you. But the Boston Garden, if you remember, they didn't have air conditioning at the Boston Garden. And I remember 88 finals. Yeah. I think it was Game 3.
Yeah, Bird and all
the
water coming up from the court, from the hockey rink.
Yeah, but Edmonton, Boston.
All about that story. Yeah.
I think they got Game 3 canceled partway through and had to pick it up and play it the next day because it got so hot in there, Sam.
I think you're
the
right.
Ice started to melt.
I think you're right.
And they had to stop the Stanley Cup Finals game because the ice was melting. It was so hot in there.
Started to melt, and they
I remember the Lakers
Celtics. They put the parquet right over the guard. Over
the Lakers Celtics Game 5, 1984 NBA Finals. The temperature, I remember Brent Musburger showed the thermometer inside the Boston Garden for that basketball game, and the temperature was 121 degrees, and they were playing basketball in it. So I wish they still played at the Boston Garden because that sounds like more fun. Don't you think, Sam? I think they should have made them swim with the puck, see if they could win.
I think Boston's a great sports town. I think that this is important to them to win another championship. It's going to be. Like I said, I've not been a hockey fan. Not that I don't like the sport. I just didn't understand the sport. Now I'm starting to understand it, and I'm looking forward to Game 7. It's going to be a dogfight. I think St. Louis is the better technical team.
I don't. I think Boston is a far superior team. But I think St. Louis is going to win. I think
Boston is a better physical team.
No.
That's how I see it.
St. Louis is by far the more physical team. Sam, what do you think? You know more than both of us, maybe.
He said it right except reverse.
Yeah. Opposite.
Everything he said just backwards, and it's right.
Yeah.
So I like St. Louis. Home ice,
I'm
home court.
Boston. I'm going to be the idiot. I'm going to go with Boston.
Yeah, the home court, home ice don't matter. You either win or you lose. I think this, Steve. I think that Game 6, I think, put a lot of pressure on the Blues being at home. You had 30,000 people outside in the square watching the game. And I think that pressure, after a while, just kind of broke that team because that pressure can be immense. And I also think that the Blues are a team that are made to play on the road. All right, let's go to the NBA Finals, Stevie. So,
two words. Kevin Durant.
What about him?
Is he playing tonight?
I would hope not.
Well, I just watched ESPN. I've watched the Sports Center. I've watched everything. Steve Kerr says, yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge mistake. But if he woke up
Is
all
he
right,
the
and the
difference?
doctors approve it. All I know is if he tears that, yeah, he'll never be the same ever again. And that's
Sammy?
risking a lot of money.
I mean, I think that partially goes back to what we were talking about with boxing. You do what you love because you love it, regardless of risks.
Yeah, but the question is this.
Right.
I think the Kevin Durant injury has hurt this team, not because Kevin Durant was there. I think the Kevin Durant injury hurts this team because it's been a distraction, because that's all they hear is Kevin Durant going to play? And Steve Kerr is always asking, is Kevin Durant going to play? I think that everybody's concentrated so much on if Kevin Durant plays that I think the Golden State Warriors have lost focus on just playing the game.
Kevin Durant.
Even
Durant.
even without Kevin Durant, they're good enough to win the series if they play better. Now, it's going to be easier to win it with Durant, but Durant hasn't played in how many weeks? And he's going to show up in Game 5 tonight, and he's going to play against the Toronto Raptors, a team that is really good defensively. And I just don't see where it matters now. And I think it's hurt more worrying about not having Kevin Durant than it actually hurt them to not have Kevin Durant.
So that's my next question. It doesn't matter that Kevin Durant plays tonight, and I think you just kind of answered it.
Yeah, I mean,
but that was my next question. Does it matter if he plays tonight or not?
If he could play 100%, if he could play at 100%,
can he save the series? Can he save the series for the Warriors?
It's going to take more than just him to save the series for the Warriors, because if he comes out and plays great, Klay Thompson plays great, Steph plays great, it can save it. But it's going to take more than just him playing great. And the problem has been they haven't had a third guy. When Klay's played, Klay and Steph have played fine, but they don't have a third guy. When it was just Klay, they didn't have a second or third guy. So if Klay and Steph play like they normally do and Durant can play his normal game, it can make a difference. Is that enough to win? I don't know, because I think the Toronto Raptors as a team have caused major problems with their offense. And I think Nick Nurse has just completely outcoached Steve Kerr.
That's a great point. I don't know that I can. I don't think I can.
Because you look at it like this.
I don't have an argument for you. Yeah,
Game 2, the Warriors kicked the Raptors' butt in Toronto. And I think from then on, you saw Nurse made a huge change. The Raptors went away from the pick and roll to use more off-ball screening and cutting. Since that adjustment, the Warriors have not been able to find the right combination to defend the Raptors, and they definitely have not been able to defend Kawhi Leonard, because with the slip screens and all the cutting they're doing now, if you try to get a double team on Kawhi Leonard, then all of a sudden you got Danny Green popping out, getting a wide open three. I mean, Danny Green got at least 5 or 6 completely wide open looks at threes, and Danny Green over the last 10 years has been one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA playoffs. So you're leaving a great shooter wide open because you're just getting confused. I mean, Green, instead of coming off a pick and roll, is actually running a slip screen, coming around, kicking out. Kawhi's taking the ball at the top of the key. They're sending somebody to help, and they're leaving Danny Green wide open. They have to adjust that. Now, they did not adjust to defend that in games 3 or 4. Will they find that adjustment for game 5? They've had an extra day to prepare. They may have Kevin Durant back, but they got to find a way to defend that. I think this, though. I think that Steve Kerr may figure out a way to defend that and take Green away. But the problem is, once they do that, Leonard's going to go off big time. I think Leonard's going to score 40 points tonight. And I think they win the series.
Okay, but that goes back to your theory of let Leonard score 50 points a game. Let him have his 50 points. He's going to get them. He's that great of a player.
Yeah, but see, the problem you have is this, because you've still got Marc Gasol down low who can pop out. You've got Siakam. So I'm saying they can take away the 3. But by taking away the 3, they're going to open up Siakam and Gasol underneath, and then Gasol could still pop out and cause you trouble with the three. I think what people are missing is we've gotten to the point where the Raptors understand exactly how to beat the Warriors, and the Warriors have no clue. Now, when the Warriors respond, does Nick Nurse as a coach, because as a coach, what you got to do is, it's like if you're calling an offense, all right, a lot of guys, especially high school guys, don't realize that when you call a play, you're calling that play to set up the next play. Now, most high school coaches will just call that play, and then when the play's over in 10 seconds, they got to figure out what they're doing next, and they have no clue. And you end up with a vanilla offense that makes no sense. The difference is when you got a coach that can think a play ahead or a game ahead, that's when you win. So what I'm saying is Nick Nurse, if he's a great coach, he already knows the possible adjustment that will beat him. Because if I'm an offensive or a defensive coach and I draw up a defense, I'm drawing up a defense to beat your offense. But while drawing that up, I know that's going to stop it. So my next thing I got to do is I can't just be happy with that. What I've got to do is I've got to know exactly what would beat my own defense. Now, I know what beats my own defense. So when the other team starts to beat my own defense, then I just make the adjustment because I already knew that was coming. Now, I think that Nick Nurse with that change will have that.
Let me ask you this. You're Steve Kerr. You're Nick Nurse, okay? You're a coach.
If I'm Nick Nurse, I'm going to the courthouse and changing my last name immediately.
No. Let me ask you the question. If you're Steve Kerr, what do you say to your team in team meeting, which is probably happening right about now?
What do you mean by what do I say to my team at a team meeting? This is the thing, Steve. Sam's been around me, and if there's 12 games played, I'm saying something maybe 3 or 4 times during 3 or 4 of those games at halftime or before the game, and that's it. You can talk to your blue in the face. He needs to coach his team. He needs to come up with the adjustment to win the game. So what he's going to do is, hold on. This is how I would handle this. I'm down 3-1. Things are going bad. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to tell them what our adjustment is, and I'm going to tell them if they do exactly what I say, they're going to win the game. Now, if they believe me, we're going to win the game. If they have any doubt at all, we're not going to win the game. Because what you have to do to be able to change something like this is you have to have enough belief in yourself that you can change things, that you can impose your will on the other team. The thing about the Golden State Warriors is we've seen them in, 4 straight finals. They've won 3. I guarantee you they have that belief. I guarantee you ain't none of them thinking if we lose tonight, we're done. They're just thinking we're going to go out and win this game. And that's what makes this scary, because the Toronto Raptors better take this serious and try to end this tonight, because if they don't end this tonight, there's a good chance they're going to find themselves in Game 7 with Steph Curry in the 4th quarter in a close game.
You don't want that.
You don't want that. You don't want those problems, as they say in the hood.
Okay, so now if you're Nick Nurse, coach, what do you say if you're coaching Toronto tonight? You're at home. You've got everything. You got Raptor Nation, whatever it is, Jurassic Park. You got Lucas there. What are you saying to your team to say, end it tonight? What are you saying?
Well, I'm going to tell them that you got to block out the crowd from the start, because when you play in front of a frenzied crowd at a big game, you have a tendency to get that heart racing at the start of the game, which speeds everything up, and you kind of lose what you're doing. So you tell them to slow everything down. The other thing is, if I'm Nick Nurse and I come out tonight and I miss a couple shots and the Warriors score and it's 4-0 or 6-0, I'm calling a timeout right then to calm everybody down so it doesn't get away from you. So I think the big thing here is to just make sure that this game, you treat it like it's any other game. You don't bring up once, we could win the finals tonight. Only thing you talk about is winning this one game. You don't talk about anything else that is surrounding it. You just win this game. And you win this game by just worrying about the possession you're in. You don't get ahead of yourself. You stay within yourself. Because I think what happened We saw this in Game 4 in Golden State, where the Warriors came out, and the Raptors played terrible. And the Warriors were only up by like 8 or 10 points at the end of the first quarter. They should have been up by 20. But the thing was, I think Golden State ran around. They got excited. The Raptors were playing bad. And I think the Warriors were playing ahead of themselves. And I think the whole key to winning in a championship game is playing within yourselves, because you can feel it in a championship game. If things are going bad on your sideline, you can feel it. And the game seems like it moves 10 times quicker. And the next thing you know, you're in the middle of the third quarter, and you're down by double digits, and it just feels like there's nothing you can do to change it. You know, panic will set in a little bit because, oh, my God, we're about to lose a championship. And it's really hard in that situation to be able to keep your head. It's kind of like the Falcons blowing that 28-3 lead. It was one of the things where when it got to 28-12, you kind of knew they were going to lose the game because they were making so many stupid decisions as a coaching staff, and Dan Quinn and Shanahan aren't stupid coaches. But they were in a situation where it just seemed like everything was going so fast, and they couldn't slow it back down. So as a coach, when you coach in a game like this, or you're a player and you play in a game that's for a world championship or a national championship or a state championship, you have to make sure that you play within yourself. And when things go wrong, as soon as they go wrong, you just tell yourself, it doesn't matter. I just got to play the next play. Instead of thinking about, oh, we're going to blow this. Last night, I think the Blues, and you said it great, Steve, the Blues played not to lose that game. The Bruins played to win that game. And I think tonight, if the Raptors play to win this game, they will win it. If they play it not to lose it, Steph Curry is going to get him in the fourth quarter.
I agree 100%. And I cannot ever possibly say it more eloquently than what you've just said.
I know you could.
Yeah, I agree with you. No, because I had the privilege of spending time with Bob Knight, and one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time, and watch him do everything that you just described. He did. And you know that. You're
Dude, I know this because of this.
You're a student of his philosophy.
I've coached championship games in front of huge crowds, and I've had that happen to me, where I know that the reason my team lost that game, it happened like 5 years ago to me. Championship game in Marion, Ohio, packed house, places going nuts, and the game just started to get away, and it started moving so fast, and I didn't respond to it. I just kind of hoped that everything would change. I've also been in the other situation where I've played in a championship game, and I would like to bring up, I've played in like 9 championship games, and I have won 6 of them. But
I've seen the rings, and they're beautiful.
Thank you.
You've got to post the rings.
And the thing is this. There's a few keys that I learned, all right? In the mid-'90s, I coached my first championship game. And my problem was I was happy to be there. And since I was happy to be there,
common problem,
my team was happy to be there. Now,
happy to be there.
We went right back the next year. And the other team was better than us. But there was no way we were going to let them beat us. And that game was a game that started off with them onside kicking us and getting the ball back. And, you know, after that happened, their lineup to run the first play, I got a couple guys that are hyperventilating. I called timeout. We calmed it down. The next play, they snapped the ball. They fumbled. We pick it up, drive it down, and score. We end up winning the game. And I can just tell you from this, if you can control it. And the thing is, it's not easy to control because the last championship game I coached in would have been 4 or 5 years ago, and that was the game that I screwed up. So I'd been through it before. And the situation can just get to you so quickly that you can't get it under control. I mean, Indiana and Duke, 92 Final Four with Bob Knight. He let that game get away from his team at the start of the second half. Now, they made it close at the end because Todd Leary hits 3 or 4 threes in the last minute. But, I mean, basically, the officials didn't help either. But Knight let the game get away from the team at the start of the second half because Krzyzewski made an adjustment that Knight took too long to adjust to, and you had Grant Hill and Christian Laettner go on a run. So it can happen to anybody. And I'm just telling you, the whole key is who plays to win, who plays not to lose.
Here's my question to you then. Here's this final question, because I know we've probably been running on long here. Is this a game tonight that's about Nick Nurse versus Steve Kerr, or is this a game about Kawhi Leonard versus Kevin Durant?
This is a game tonight that I think is about Nick Nurse. I think the Toronto Raptors, Kevin Durant's not going to be 100%. The Raptors are the better team.
Yeah.
So Nick Nurse just has to make sure that his team plays at the level that they should play at.
Play to win. They have to play to win.
This is the thing. I think coaching is the biggest thing. The most controlling factor, whether you're good or not in football, is your coach. Because the coaches actually control what happens before each play and what happens during the play up to an extent where they call every play. Basketball, you can't as much. But in a game like this, in a championship game, it's about controlling emotions. You played in 1981 against North Carolina, where you had the big shot by Whitman on the baseline that gave you, I think, a 2-point lead at the half. And then you guys came out in the second half, and opposite of 92, Knight made the adjustment of just making sure Isaiah is the only dude to shoot the ball for the first 8 minutes. And North Carolina panicked, and the problem wasn't just that Isaiah was wearing them out on defense. It was the fact that Isaiah put so much pressure on them offensively that North Carolina's offense suffered because of it.
Well said. I look back right now, and I see exactly what you're saying. And I don't know that was our theory. It's just what Isaiah did.
Yeah, because Isaiah is that kind of player.
Game. Yeah,
now, and this is the thing tonight, though. We've got multiple guys on both sides that could be that guy.
That can do that.
So you asked the question about how great Leonard was over the last week. I think we find out tonight. I mean, this is a game that if it's close at the end and he just grabs the ball and starts scoring left and right and puts this team on his back and wins it all, he's got a case to be the best player in the world right now. But
I think he will. I think he'll do that.
I think he will too.
I have all indications say he will do that. But I said I think Steve Kerr is a better coach.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that.
We don't know that.
And the thing is this: so far in this series, Nick Nurse has outcoached him by the adjustment he made after Game 2.
But has Kawhi outplayed them?
No, I mean this is the thing. What you're missing here is the changes that Nurse made wouldn't matter if Danny Green wasn't hitting the 3-ball. Danny Green's making the shots. So Nick Nurse can only put you, as a coach, I can only put Sam in a certain position and tell him the ball's going to come to you, just don't drop it.
Yeah.
And against the Crimson Knights, Sam, we did that twice, and you didn't drop either one of them.
Credit to Tay and Elijah and all them for getting to the quarterback, though.
Yeah, but that quarterback wasn't very good. He was going to throw it to you anyways. I told you that.
Hey, Mike, great insight.
Yeah, it was just a slower ball.
Mike, that's fabulous insight, Mike, and thank you for that.
All right, so who you got tonight, Steve? Sounds like you've switched your pick to the Raptors.
I kind of got to go with the Raptors tonight. I kind of think they're going to bring it home. All right. I think it's a good thing for everybody. It's not what the NBA wants, I don't think. I don't know what the NBA wants.
I don't think that the NBA is against it. So, I mean, it's a good story.
I think it's a great thing. It makes Lucas happy, and that makes me happy if Lucas is happy. And it's I think Toronto deserves this. They've outplayed them.
All right, Sam.
They've outcoached them, outplayed them.
Sam, give us your pick and any comments you want to make about the series before we wrap it up.
I think if KD is truly coming back, they'll win tonight and lose Game 6. If he's not coming back, or if he isn't at 100%, they'll lose.
He's not going to be at 100%. He hasn't played in like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So, or 3 or 4 weeks at least. So,
he's going to be off kilter.
And I think you'll get a little bit of inspiration from it, but not as much as if he was coming back at Golden State. And how about this? I think KD
does make a difference.
I think KD is such a warrior that if he is to not play or doesn't play that well and they lose, you might see him re-signing Golden State.
And that's a discussion we need to have on the next 2 or 3 shows, because you and I have different philosophies on Kevin Durant. And
all I know is this, Steve. Remember this. Last year, when we talked about Leonard going to Toronto, you thought it was a bad idea because he'd be a distraction because he didn't play in the playoffs last year because he was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I think guys like Durant and Leonard have never proven to be that kind of guy before. So I would always err on the side that if they're not playing, they're hurt.
Social media. There you go.
All right, guys.
Spot on.
We're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap today's show up. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 in about a half hour. You can hear me and Bobby Sheridan. Bobby will give you his pick on the Raptors and the Golden State Warriors. Also, the top plays of the day in Major League Baseball. Tonight, me and Jeremiah Pricer will be back with Inside Boxing Daily. It might be Jeremiah by himself tonight because that'll be during the NBA Finals. So, unless it's a blowout. But Jeremiah will be on. He knows a lot of stuff, too. All right. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. You can download the Grueling Truth app on the iTunes Store. You can hear us on Xeno Live Radio. So, for Sam McGinnis, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpasser. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.